Well, welcome back, everybody, and thanks for sticking around. For those of you who were not with us earlier, Ben and I spoke about the survey results and how South Africans are ready to adopt EVs. And some of that's going to come out in this session as well. And I encourage OEMs and stakeholders to stay tuned, because we're going to unpack right at the end what the ideal EV actually is. And so without further ado, the reality is that we're fast moving towards electric vehicles, the planet across. And South Africa risks being left behind in the ice age, because Europe is moving there very quickly, and the future adoption curve is steepening. What does that mean? We have a drop-dead date. There could be a fork in the road, and another track may develop if we don't adopt EVs in South Africa. Because let's be frank, we are not a car designing nation. We are a car assembly nation, which means that we sit in the lap of Europe, China, and other countries that we get either EV vehicles imported from, or that we get EV parts to assemble from. So there is this fork in the road coming, and some of those challenges that we face in that fork in the road is the initial investment. The longer we take to adopt EVs as a consumer and as a trade or industry, the more expensive it might become to adopt EVs in the long run as that curve steepens. Because remember, there is going to be an end date. And then once the EU regulations switch to only accepting EVs, we can't accept new cars anymore, or should I say, we can't export new cars anymore to the other countries in Europe. The future steepening adoption curve, as we were speaking about, means that new car exports won't happen from South Africa unless we adopt manufacturing EVs in South Africa. And those deadlines are set. There is going to be a global ban at some point on ICE vehicles, and some nations have set that date to 2035. But there's good news. Fortunately, the prospect of South African adoption is good, and I'm going to tell you some of the reasons why. But first, to say that of AutoTrader's 45 million searches a month that get conducted by in-market car shoppers across about 8 million visits each month, we have substantial data, and we slice and dice and analyze that data just like the data you see in the earlier session with the EV buyer survey. And this provides us insights into what consumers are doing, what they're shopping for, and what their appetite is. On top of that, we did the EV buyer survey with more than 3,000 respondents. And what we noticed is that just like the pandemic, AutoTrader sees revealing trends that consumers move incredibly quickly when it comes to the car market. We saw trends shift incredibly fast from the end of March all the way through to now September. And those shifting trends was a shift in buyer behavior. So I have no doubt that the moment the EV world is stimulated in South Africa, we are going to see consumers respond relatively quickly. So the EV appetite is good in South Africa, and we have to ask ourselves the question, what do consumers want? And do they want EVs? And the answer is clearly yes, because 68% of consumers say they want to buy an EV, although 1.8% of consumers have ever owned an EV. With just over 13% of consumers having ever driven an EV or experienced an EV. And South Africa is also searching for EVs that don't exist. So on AutoTrader's platform, we find that consumers are searching for a Toyota Hilux EV. That EV doesn't exist in South Africa, but it shows the appetite for electric vehicles. 38% of respondents aged 35 to 54 are also looking to buy an EV within the next 3 years. That is around the corner. And I think if we blink our eyes, 3 years would have gone by. And have we made ourselves ready as an industry and as consumers for the EV future? Another concern with South African consumers is charging infrastructure. Little known fact by consumers is that a charging infrastructure actually exists. Charging points between 100 and 200 kilometers of each other exist on all our major highways. Within our metro areas in Cape Town, Durban, and Johannesburg, consumers never have to travel more than about 20 kilometers to find a charge point. But it's not about charging stations. It's about lifestyle and behavior change by consumers. Internationally, there is one charging station for every 20 EVs. In South Africa, there's one charging station for every 4 EVs. So we can see that the charging infrastructure is already ahead of the adoption curve. So the problem that exists is not necessarily charging infrastructure. It is education on EV adoption. One major milestone was that the Jaguar I-Pace won the South African 2020 Car of the Year. And the Jaguar I-Pace has won hundreds of awards and has a list of accolades as long as my arm. But what does all this mean? What do we do to capitalize on the future? Because consumers are ready, and I think that's the message up to now. Consumers are ready, and you can go and see why at reports.autotrader.co.za. And go and read the report for yourself, because we can't unpack it in a short session like this. The big elephant in the room, though, is government involvement. The crux of the matter is that EVs are too costly with the import taxes that exist today. And you would have seen NAAMSA is currently negotiating with government to get EV taxes reduced. At the moment, we pay roughly 18% on import taxes on ICE vehicles, whereas we pay 25% on EVs or even more. So we need to reduce these taxes. There's other opportunities to reduce company car tax, to reduce toll taxes. There are many, many ways that I think creatively we can think with government to reduce the burden on the consumer and to stimulate EV adoption. And everybody cites the Norway example. Norway is a very, very good example in terms of what they've done. These incentives and cost reductions don't have to last forever, and that's what we're seeing in Norway. Currently, in South Africa, unfortunately, it's the opposite. The result of these incentives will drive, I'm pretty confident, EV adoption in South Africa, because the survey results clearly show that price is one of the biggest barriers to future EV adoption. It's just cheaper to buy an ICE vehicle. And evidently, government involvement is going to be crucial. But let's not forget about the other side of this balancing act, and that is the consumer. It is our job as an industry to educate the consumer, because consumers are concerned about home charging times. Almost 90% or just over 90% of consumers believe that EVs should be able to fully charge within 12 hours. Is that accurate? Pretty much. However, when it comes to buying an EV, consumers want faster charging times at home. We heard from ABSA earlier that they're looking into financing energy in homes as well as the car, and I hope that happens. But 73.7% of people that responded to the survey want EVs to take less than 4 hours to charge at home. Right now, I don't think that that's a possibility. So it's more of an education than it is changing the technology of an EV or the ability for a battery to charge, and a lifestyle change. We spoke about the analogy of a horse. Every time we get home, what do? More than likely plug in our mobile phones. We more than likely have to plug in our EVs at the same time and have the EV ready for the next morning. When it comes to public infrastructure and charging, this same pattern emerges, which is consumers expect EVs to charge. 74% of consumers expect EVs to fully charge in under 1 hour in public fast charging stations. And 45% of consumers expect EVs to charge in less than 30 minutes in fast charging stations. I don't know if that's possible, and maybe it's really just a marketing challenge. When it comes to range anxiety, 45.9% of respondents in our survey believe that the average EV delivers up to 300 kilometers. Consumers seem to have this range anxiety based on their perceptions of running out of battery charge. But all of us, me included, only travel 30, 40, maybe 50 kilometers on a single trip to the office and back, and then maybe on holiday to Durban or Cape Town. So is this a range anxiety problem that is real, or is it really just a marketing and education gap? So let's look at what the survey results told us about what the perfect EV really is. And the perfect EV is a car priced under 500,000 Rand that can do at least 500 kilometers. The Jaguar I-Pace is almost there. Has full home charging in under 12 hours. Has full public charging in under 30 minutes. But again, the conundrum is the first element, which is a car under 500,000 Rand for mass adoption. And OEMs can take note of what consumers assume, or which cars consumers assume are in the country today. BMW wins the prize with having the most awareness of EVs on the roads today. And as a matter of fact, on AutoTrader, BMW is the most searched for vehicle for a very long time. Then Jaguar, Nissan, Toyota, Porsche, Mercedes-Benz, Tesla. Consumers believe Tesla are actually in South Africa, because this question was, what brands have cars on the road today? Audi and then Lexus. But I think the more important question is, which brands do consumers trust to manufacture EVs? And interestingly enough, while BMW comes out tops again, Tesla comes out second. So if we do manage to get the taxes reduced in South Africa, Elon Musk may just bring EVs or Teslas to South Africa, and we could see adoption of Teslas. But what's interesting is our other top brands are also there, like Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, which is, if you look at the rest of Africa, Toyota has painted Africa red. And then VW, Jaguar, Audi, Porsche, Volvo, and Nissan. So what role can you play in bridging this gap? As an OEM, as government officials, as consumers, as car retailers, and as society on this continent. It's not up to either one of us. It's up to all of us. So if you want to go and download the report, go to reports.autotrader.co.za, and you can read the report. It is many, many pages long and offers many insights. Or if you want to connect with me or us, those are my details on the screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, George. That's so interesting to hear. I'm very curious to see how I'm going to fast charge my EV in 30 minutes at a mall.
It shows you how consumers' misconceptions around EVs exist, and really want to continue their lifestyles in destination filling, because that's what we do at the fuel station right now, right? We destination fill.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that also a lot of South Africans as a whole, and I picked this up during our electric vehicle road trip, is that not many South Africans actually know that we have so many charging points around South Africa. It's either that, or is Eskom going to charge my car?
Well, load shedding comes up often in, when you're standing around the braai, would you adopt EVs? Oh, but what about load shedding?
Yes.
We have an African sun.
Yes, true, but we have to get there to the point that we have that much solar power.
I'm just positive about it.
I'm with you on the positivities. I feel you. We do have a question that's come through. It's actually come through from Facebook, because we're live streaming on the AutoTrader platform as well. So what steps can government take to use EV adoption and related infrastructure in economic growth?
So let me just read that and digest it first. We'll put it up there again.
Timo, could you put the question up?
What steps can government take to use EV adoption and related infrastructure in economic growth? Well, I think the elephant in the room has been all along tax incentives. Bring the 25% import taxes as step one down, and then I think help OEMs set up manufacturing plants. as a second step. There's lots that can be done. I mean, just look at the Norway example.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting for me is whilst you were chatting and Henry Botha from ABSA was chatting, I decided to go on and do some price investigation on vehicles. And one that really stood out for me, and I don't mean to pick on this particular brand, but Mini Cooper obviously just brought out their brand new, and I'm a Mini fan, just brought out their new e-vehicle, and it's almost 200,000 Rand more expensive than the normal vehicle.
Yes, it's 642,000 Rand new, and way more expensive, and that's because of partly because of the import tax.
It's crazy to think of that. All right, well, thank you so much for chatting to us today. I really
welcome.
Appreciate it. If you do want to download that,
More question, apparently.
Oh, we do have one more question. Okay, let's have a look. Here we go. Which provinces do not have charging stations in South Africa? If there are, how long will it take for them to build them?
Well, if you look at the rate at which EV charging stations are going up in the country, and the fact that there's one EV charging station per 4 vehicles, I think that that will rapidly increase the moment we start EV adoption, the actual car adoption. It's no longer about charging stations; it's about EVs. And I think while that's a good question, let's stimulate the adoption of EVs and circle back to the charging infrastructure, because personally I think the charging infrastructure is ahead of the EV adoption itself.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And I think for that question as well, a little later on in our program today, we actually have one of the charging station partners that will be chatting to us about charging stations and what it takes to set one up. All those details will be coming up later today as well. Thank you so much, George.
You're welcome.